to the transfer show. Plenty was expected of Rasmus Højlund when he arrived in the Premier League. Fair to say it hasn't happened for him so far. I mean, Rob, what's the latest on his future then?
Well, Napoli are still in talks, and our colleagues at Sky Italy feel that they're making pretty good progress. Di Marzio, who we know very well, is a bit of a transfer genius, is all over that one, and he thinks that the player wants to go to Napoli. I think what's interesting is that United have changed their strategy a little bit, and they don't want to let a lot of these players that are surplus to requirements from Ruben Amorim's point of view go on loan without there being some sort of substantive element to it. So United will let Højlund go, but they want a permanent element to the deal. And I think that suits Højlund as well. He, from what I'm hearing from his end, he wants a little bit of certainty in his future and where it goes from here. You know, a season on loan in Serie A and then coming back to Old Trafford is not ideal from him.
So an obligation to buy.
Well, but so Napoli seem to favour a loan with an option to buy. Okay. Manchester United are a bit more stringent. If it's not a loan with an obligation to buy, they'd certainly like it to be an obligation if there's a realistic, achievable goals, and that's where I think the discussions are focused at the moment. I think it's pretty similar with Garnacho, which Carve's a bit of an expert on. Yeah,
I mean, before we get on that show, Carve, we've seen Napoli revive players' careers. Not that Scott McTominay's career was particularly flagging, certainly going pretty well for Scotland, wasn't he? So this looks on paper like a pretty good move for Højlund.
Brilliant move for him. I mean, he's going to live and work in Naples. He's going to play in front of some of the most passionate supporters in the world, in one of the best grounds in the world. They're the Italian champions. They're in the Champions moving back there.
Okay, so they're people that players that Ruben Amorim wants out. How about more incomings? Rob, the goalkeeper situation, what's news there?
Look, goalkeeper wasn't a priority position for Manchester United in this summer window. It's been made pretty clear to me that they think they've had a good window. They looked at the stats. Manchester United's strategy now, with all of the people they've got in the right places, is that they want to focus on the data. They want to look at the stats that tell them where they need to improve. And all of those stats were telling them they didn't score enough goals last season. And so that's why they spent over £200 million on 3 new forward players, when a lot of Manchester United fans, I think, were calling out for midfielders and centre-backs maybe. They are calling for a new goalkeeper now, and whilst it wasn't at the top of Manchester United's priority, they see Lammens as a really good option at Royal Antwerp, and he might cost just over £17 million. And I think United's recruitment guys are thinking that's too good an opportunity to miss, to buy up somebody of his talent and strengthening the goalkeeping group for the long term. It's far from certain that he'd come in and be Amorim's number one, and you've got to remember that Andre Onana is expected to leave for the Africa Cup of Nations and miss most of December and January. So they're going to be a goalkeeper down for 2 key months of the season. That's why they're interested. I think they'll get the deal done. But it sounds like Antwerp want to delay it a little bit and make sure that they get the full value for him. So negotiations ongoing as things stand.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for data. And I'm all for improving a forward line if it suggests, that data suggests that the goals haven't been coming. But a lot of Manchester United fans are saying that they need a midfielder because they don't have legs, particularly in that kind of number 6 position where there's quite often 2 of them playing against 3 in there. Forget your inverted fullbacks and stuff. So don't they need to find that position as well? And then that can then lead to patterns of play that will help goal scoring as well.
That sounds spot on.
There's no data there. That's just a bit of common sense.
Well, and that's what a lot of Man United fans are feeling.
Like data around
it was really quite impressive, that, wasn't it? But it's also, listen, he's also copying Gary Neville here, because that's what Gary Neville said.
I didn't know that. That was all my own work.
That's exactly what Gary Neville said. And so if you're agreeing with Gary Neville and a lot of Manchester United fans agree, then I think that's a fair point. My understanding is that United know that they can't solve all of their problems in one transfer window. And so they're almost breaking it down and trying to be very strategic about this. And the focus for this window was up front. And they've brought in 3 world-class players, haven't they? In Benjamin Šeško, Brian Mbeumo and Mateus Cunha. For 200.
They haven't scored yet.
No, they haven't.
It's good data. That's good data.
It's good data.
0 goals. It's early.
What about the XG, though?
Well, exactly. He'll tell you. He'll know. He'll know that. So look, my understanding now is that United would still like to be active in the last 6 days of this window. And that's having sorted out their forward line as far as they see it and their attacking options. Now's when they're looking at goalkeepers and midfielders. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they bought a midfielder in before the window closes, but that may rely on what we've just been talking about, getting Anthony out, getting Garnacho out, getting Højlund out. Yeah. They need to clear some players out of a huge squad, a bloated squad, and they need to free up some money as well. If they do that in the next couple of days, I think they could be busy in the last few days in terms of incomings.
Manchester United fans are waiting to see if the club do more in the transfer market before the deadline. At the core of Manchester United's trouble against Fulham was a disappointing midfield performance. Bruno Fernandes struggled, while Casemiro grew tired and was replaced. Manuel Ugarte was unable to exert any influence either. Kobbie Mainoo was overlooked, again. There is 1 week remaining for United to change the situation in the transfer window. Could a last-ditch approach for Carlos Baleba solve a problem for United, and perhaps one for Brighton too? Shortly before Manchester United were labouring to a 1-1 draw with Fulham, Brighton suffered a 2-0 defeat away to Everton. Carlos Baleba had a game to forget, hooked after 45 minutes with his side trailing 1-0. Baleba was limited to only 17 touches before being taken off. The 21-year-old played like a player who has been distracted by the ongoing transfer speculation, with Manchester United expressing interest. Brighton turned down Manchester United's approach for the midfielder, with the Red Devils prepared to pay a club record fee. While he did not play like a £100 million player against Everton, or even half of that, his performance may pose a dilemma for Brighton that Manchester United could end up solving. If Carlos Baleba's head has been turned, amid regular contact between United and his representatives, Brighton need to hope they can refocus him. But a savvy club like Brighton may also recognise the financial opportunity they still have if they decide to cash in on Baleba. If Baleba plays like he did against Everton on a weekly basis, then his value would rapidly deteriorate by time the next transfer window opens. And perhaps United might not be interested at all. Manchester United could be smart to reignite contact with Brighton before the transfer window closes, to try and resurrect a deal. Ruben Amorim needs results, and a tough fixture list puts him under pressure. Baleba may need a change too, on the evidence of his latest display. If there is a chance that Brighton could be swayed into a U-turn on their not-for-sale stance, then it is a gamble United must take.
O épico jogo de ação online War Thunder permite mergulhar em batalhas colossais e testemunhar todo o poder de veículos militares lendários. Da Segunda Guerra Mundial à Era Moderna, tanques, aviões, helicópteros e navios de diferentes gerações foram recriados até os mínimos detalhes, fazendo você se sentir como nos filmes de ação. Lute em campos de batalhas históricos, onde o terreno e os arredores desempenham um papel crucial. Deixe-se levar pelo caos dos combates realistas com gráficos de ponta e física avançada, com a atualização mais recente. War Thunder está ainda melhor. Graças aos impressionantes efeitos de disparo, você sentirá todo o fogo e fúria da batalha. Além disso, com a melhoria do controle das aeronaves, ficou mais fácil do que nunca fazer manobras insanas no grande FA-18. Controle tanques, encare combates aéreos de alta velocidade e participe de batalhas navais épicas. Jogue por conta própria ou junte seus amigos no maior jogo de ação de todos os tempos. Baixe War Thunder de graça em warthunder.com.